You're all welcome to today's news analysis, where we break down the story behind the headlines, clear, simple, and reliable, just the way you need it. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss updates on big news in Africa and beyond. Today, we're talking about Uganda, where the streets are burning with protests over alleged election rigging, and President Yoweri Museveni is trying to stay in power. But there's a twist. Ibrahim Traoré, the leader from Burkina Faso, has stepped in with a warning. This story is intense, it's real, and it affects the future of Uganda and even the region. Let's break it down. The protests in Uganda started after news broke that President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power for decades, is planning to extend his rule even further. The electoral body in Uganda is preparing to declare him the winner of the presidential election, despite widespread reports of irregularities and concerns from opposition parties. From the moment these reports surfaced, anger spread quickly across the country. People in Kampala, Gulu, Jinja, and other cities took to the streets. Citizens, young and old, started chanting, waving banners, and demanding that their votes be respected. Many of them feel their voices are being ignored, that their hopes for change are being crushed, and that the electoral process is no longer fair or transparent. The protests began peacefully, with groups organizing marches and public gatherings to demand justice. But as the day passed, tension rose. Government forces, including soldiers and police, were deployed to strategic locations, ready to respond to any sign of unrest. The presence of armed security forces on the streets only heightened fear. People who were already angry felt threatened, and small clashes began to break out in some areas. The streets became a battleground of emotion. Citizens were frustrated, exhausted, and desperate for change. For many Ugandans, the election was supposed to be a moment where their voices counted. Instead, it feels like the system is being manipulated to favor a leader who has already held power for more than 3 decades. This long tenure has created resentment, especially among the youth, who see their future being limited by the continuation of the same leadership. Amidst this chaos, Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader of Burkina Faso, has publicly intervened. In a statement that shocked many across Africa, Traoré warned Museveni directly. He said, "Do not harm the people. Protests must be respected. Violence will bring only chaos." This warning is rare and significant. In the African political context, it is unusual for one leader to openly caution another about handling protests within their own country. Traoré's message is not just political, it is moral. He is reminding Museveni and the world that the safety of civilians cannot be overlooked and that the consequences of violent suppression will not stay confined within Uganda's borders. The warning from Traoré adds a new layer to the unfolding story. It highlights that the situation in Uganda is not only a national issue but a regional concern. African leaders and citizens alike are watching closely. What Museveni does next will not only affect Uganda but could also influence political norms across neighboring countries. Traoré's intervention suggests that the era of ignoring public dissent may be coming to an end, and that accountability is being demanded not just domestically but from the broader African community. Meanwhile, the protests continue to grow. Reports indicate that thousands of people are gathering in the streets daily. Students, workers, and ordinary citizens are uniting in their demand for fairness. They are calling on the electoral body to act transparently and not to declare Museveni the winner prematurely. There is a sense of urgency in the air, a shared feeling that now is the moment to speak up before it is too late. The government, on the other hand, is under pressure to maintain control. Museveni's administration has emphasized stability and warned against what it calls illegal gatherings. Yet the message from the people is clear. They will not remain silent while their electoral rights are undermined. The streets are alive with voices that refuse to be ignored, and every day, the movement grows stronger. It is also important to understand the emotional and social impact of these protests. Families are fearful for their children, young adults worry about safety while still wanting to participate, and communities are experiencing tension as neighbors disagree over political loyalties. The situation is complex, not just politically but socially. Every decision from the government has consequences that ripple through families, communities, and even Uganda's economy. In this tense environment, Traoré's warning becomes even more critical. It is a reminder that leadership is not only about power or winning elections. It is about responsibility, humanity, and foresight. Museveni is being called to consider not only his political position but also the lives and well-being of millions of Ugandans. The warning is clear: missteps could lead to unnecessary suffering and a deepening crisis. The protests and the warning from Traore mark the beginning of what could become a defining moment in Uganda's history. Citizens are challenging the status quo, demanding that their voices be heard, and insisting that the electoral process be respected. The government is facing a dilemma: continue to assert control or respond to the people's demands. The rising storm in Uganda is about more than politics. It is about justice, fairness, and the courage of ordinary citizens to stand up for their rights. With the electoral body planning to declare Museveni the winner, the stakes have never been higher. Every action from now on will shape the future of the country, and every word from leaders like Traore matters. The eyes of the world are on Uganda, and the streets are ready to write history. This is the reality. Uganda is at a crossroads, and the decisions made in the next few days could change everything. The protests are loud, the warning is clear, and the world is watching closely. Museveni is currently leading the election, but this is not a straightforward situation. He is already the sitting president, which gives him enormous control over the electoral process. The electoral body in Uganda is planning to declare him the winner, even though opposition parties and observers have raised serious concerns about irregularities. Critics argue that votes are being manipulated, polling stations are being influenced, and the fairness of the process is in serious doubt. This situation has created enormous tension in the country. While Museveni's supporters claim stability and continuity are essential, millions of citizens see the election as an opportunity for real change. They feel that their voices are being ignored and that their votes no longer matter. Social media, television, and local networks are flooded with discussions, messages, and videos showing a population determined to be heard. Despite the growing unrest, Museveni has maintained a calm public demeanor. He continues to address supporters, emphasizing his track record, experience, and promises of security and development. But behind the scenes, the country is tense. Soldiers and police are stationed in major cities, strategic checkpoints have been established, and the government is closely monitoring protest leaders. The streets of Kampala and other cities are not just crowded, they are alive with emotion, fear, and determination. Amid this situation, Ibrahim Traoré's warning adds a serious dimension to the crisis. Traore did not speak in vague terms. He addressed Museveni directly, saying, "Do not harm the people. Protests must be respected. Violence will bring only chaos." These words are not only a message to the Ugandan president, they are a signal to the entire region that violent suppression of citizens will not be tolerated quietly. This warning highlights the challenge Museveni faces. He is not only under pressure domestically but is also facing scrutiny from regional leaders and African citizens who are watching closely. Traoré's bold intervention emphasizes that leadership is measured not just by election wins but by the respect for human life and civic rights. Any aggressive response against protesters could isolate Uganda politically and economically, and it could escalate the crisis beyond the country's borders. The protests themselves are complex. They are not limited to one group or demographic. Students, workers, business owners, and ordinary citizens are all participating. Young people, in particular, are energized by a desire for change. They feel that decades of the same leadership have limited opportunities for growth, innovation, and personal freedom. Their energy is passionate but also vulnerable, because confrontations with security forces could easily escalate into violence. Meanwhile, Museveni's strategy seems to be a mix of reassurance and firmness. His government emphasizes stability, warns against illegal gatherings, and encourages dialogue in controlled settings. Yet citizens do not trust that these measures are genuine. They fear that once the electoral body officially declares Museveni the winner, any attempt at negotiation will be meaningless. Traoré's message serves as a reminder of the consequences of ignoring these warnings. Africa has seen numerous situations where governments failed to listen to their people. In many cases, the result has been chaos, international condemnation, and long-lasting damage to social cohesion and trust in leadership. Traoré's words are a clear signal that Museveni must choose a path carefully, because his actions in the coming days will define not just this election but his legacy. The protests also show the power of citizen action. Even in the face of armed security, people continue to march, chant, and demand transparency. Their persistence underscores a crucial point. Power is not absolute if the people are determined. Museveni's leadership is being tested, not only by the electoral process but by the courage and determination of ordinary citizens who refuse to accept a predetermined outcome. International attention is growing as well. Regional observers, news outlets, and human rights organizations are monitoring the situation closely. Any violence against protesters could spark diplomatic pressure and calls for sanctions. Museveni is navigating a delicate balance. He must maintain authority, satisfy his supporters, and respond to growing public demands without tipping the country into chaos. For Nigerians and other viewers across Africa, this story is relatable. Many have seen governments struggle with legitimacy, control, and public dissatisfaction. Uganda's protests remind everyone that leadership comes with responsibility, and that ignoring citizen voices can have serious consequences. The tension between Museveni's power and the people's demand for fairness is a lesson that resonates across the continent. At this moment, Museveni's choices are clear. He can continue to consolidate power and risk a violent confrontation, or he can listen to the warnings, respect citizens' rights, and allow space for peaceful resolution. Traore's warning is not just a statement. It is a challenge to Museveni's judgment, morality, and leadership. Uganda is at a critical point. The electoral body is ready to declare Museveni the winner, the protests are growing, and Traore's words hang heavily over the situation. How Museveni responds in the coming hours and days will not only determine the outcome of this election, but will also shape the future of Ugandan society and the credibility of African leadership. The streets are alive, the message is clear, and the world is watching closely. This is the reality. Museveni's power is strong, but the people's determination is stronger. The coming days will reveal whether wisdom, caution, and respect for human life prevail, or whether history will remember this moment as a missed opportunity for change. The big question now is simple. What happens next in Uganda? The streets are alive with people demanding fairness. Protesters continue to march, chant, and organize, refusing to be silenced. Many are young, educated, and determined, feeling that their future depends on change. Yet, at the same time, Museveni's supporters argue that stability and continuity are necessary. This creates a tense standoff. On one side, a population demanding democracy and justice. On the other, a government determined to maintain control. Museveni's current lead and the electoral body's plan to declare him the winner complicate the situation. To him, this is an opportunity to consolidate power further. To the people, it is proof that their votes and voices are being ignored. This clash of perception has fueled the largest protests in years. People fear that ignoring them could lead to widespread violence. At the same time, Museveni faces pressure from regional leaders and international observers, who are watching closely, analyzing every step he takes. This is where Ibrahim Traoré's warning becomes crucial. His words are a reminder that leadership is not only about winning elections. Traoré said, "Do not harm the people. Protests must be respected. Violence will bring only chaos." These words carry weight because they come from a peer leader who understands the risks of ignoring citizen voices. Africa is watching, and the warning is clear. Suppressing the people could have consequences far beyond Uganda. For Museveni, the choice is difficult but clear. He can continue to assert power and risk violent clashes, risking lives and international condemnation. Or, he can listen to Traoré's warning, respect the citizens' demands, and create an opportunity for dialogue and peaceful resolution. Either path will define his legacy. The people, meanwhile, are not backing down. Their persistence is a powerful reminder that authority is not absolute. Citizens are exercising a fundamental right, the right to speak and demand fairness. Social media amplifies their voices, allowing messages from the streets of Kampala to reach the world. Every chant, every march, every banner strengthens their resolve and draws attention to their cause. The tension in Uganda is also a reflection of a broader challenge across Africa. Leaders who hold power for long periods often struggle with balancing authority and accountability. Citizens are becoming more aware of their rights and more determined to ensure that their voices matter. Uganda is now an example of this struggle, a live test of how far people can push for justice while leaders hold tightly to power. Internationally, the situation is being monitored closely. Human rights groups, media organizations, and neighboring governments are weighing in. Any misstep by Museveni could result in sanctions, travel restrictions, and pressure that affects Uganda's economy and global reputation. This adds a layer of complexity to the already volatile situation. Museveni must manage not only the protests but also the optics and consequences beyond his borders. For viewers in Nigeria and across Africa, this story hits close to home. Many have experienced elections where results were questioned, where governments were accused of manipulation, and where citizens had to fight to have their voices heard. Uganda's situation is both a warning and a lesson. Leadership requires responsibility, and ignoring the people can lead to chaos. The future of Uganda hangs in the balance. Every decision in the coming days will matter. Museveni's choice, the protests, and the international response will all shape the country's path. Citizens are demanding fairness. Traore's warning is a call for wisdom. And the world is watching closely. One thing is certain. History is being written on the streets of Kampala and across Uganda. The outcome will influence not just this election but the broader understanding of leadership, accountability, and citizen power in Africa. Whether the story ends peacefully or with violence depends on the decisions of those in power and the courage of those demanding justice.